Ask yourself something right now. If your income stopped tomorrow, not dropped, not dipped, completely stopped, how many days could you survive before you couldn't pay a single bill? Most people who hear that question get uncomfortable, not because they don't know the answer, because they do. And the number is smaller than they want to admit. Here's the problem with how most people define financial stability. They define it by what's coming in, the salary, the direct deposit, the freelance payment that hits every other Friday. They look at income and they say, I'm fine. But income is not financial stability. Income is a drip line, and you are one cut away from the tap running dry. Financial stability is determined by one thing and one thing only. What happens when the income stops? That's the measurement. And when you actually run the numbers on that, when you sit down and calculate exactly how long you can sustain your life without a single dollar of new income, most people discover something that shocks them. They're not stable, they're leveraged. There's a term used in financial risk modeling called days cash on hand. Hospitals use it, corporations use it, governments use it. It measures exactly how long an organization can survive if all incoming revenue vanishes overnight. The threshold considered dangerously low, 30 days. Now, I want you to calculate yours. Take your total liquid savings, checking, savings, anything accessible without penalty, divide it by your monthly expenses. That number, that ratio, is your personal days cash on hand. And I'm going to walk you through what each zone means, why the financial system is designed to keep you in the danger zone, and the exact moves that shift you out of it permanently. But before we get there, I need to show you something first, something the financial industry does not want you to see clearly, because once you see it, you'll understand why most middle-class households stay exactly where they are year after year, decade after decade, despite rising incomes, despite working harder. I want you to meet Diane. Diane is 38 years old. She works in operations management for a mid-sized logistics company. She earns $94,000 a year. After tax, that's approximately $5,950 a month hitting her account. She owns a 2021 SUV, she has a 401k she contributes to, she's never missed a rent payment in her life, and she has a credit score of 741. By every external signal, Diane looks financially solid. Now let's run her actual numbers. Rent, $1,780. Car payment, $510. Car insurance, $190. Subscriptions and streaming, $87. Gym and wellness apps, $65. Student loan minimum, $340. Credit card minimum payments across 2 cards, $210. Groceries, $420. Utilities and phone, $310. Dining and social spending, $480. Personal care and closing, $220. Miscellaneous, $180. Total monthly outflow, $4,792. That leaves Diane $1,158 per month. Sounds workable, except she has $4,200 in her checking account and $1,900 in savings. That's $6,100 total liquid. Divide $6,100 by her monthly expenses of $4,792. She has 38 days of cash on hand. 1 month and 8 days. That is the full distance between Diane's current life and a financial crisis. And Diane is not a cautionary tale. Diane is the median. She represents a massive segment of working professionals earning real money who have, without ever intending to, built a life that is one disruption from collapse. A layoff, an unexpected medical bill, a transmission going out, a landlord raising rent $400. Any single event, not a catastrophe, just a real-life event, and Diane's financial architecture starts fracturing. Now, here's the part that should make you stop. Diane's 401k has $43,000 in it. She's been contributing for 6 years. On paper, that money exists, but the moment she needs it before 59 and a half, she faces a 10% early withdrawal penalty and full income tax on every dollar she pulls. On a $20,000 withdrawal, that could cost her $8,000 to $10,000 in penalties and taxes. Her retirement account is not an emergency fund. It's a financial jail with a delayed sentence. This is the first thing the financial system gets people to miscount. They look at a retirement balance and feel wealthy, but retirement savings are not liquidity. They're locked capital with a penalty clause attached to early access. So, when we strip out Diane's 401k, which she cannot touch without significant cost, her real accessible buffer is $6,100. And the financial industry designed it this way on purpose. Let me explain exactly how. There's a mechanism at work in the modern financial system that operates specifically to keep high earners cash poor. It is not a conspiracy, it's a product architecture, and it works like this. Every financial product you interact with, from your car loan to your credit card to your mortgage, is engineered to maximize the size of your monthly payment relative to your income, while keeping that payment just comfortable enough to sustain. The goal is not to help you build wealth. The goal is to capture the maximum percentage of your disposable income as a permanent recurring revenue stream to the institution. Your car payment, your student loan, your credit card minimum, these are not debt repayment tools. They are income extraction mechanisms, and they are exquisitely calibrated. Here's what I mean. When Diane took out her car loan at $510 a month, the dealership's finance manager ran what is called a payment-to-income analysis. They didn't ask what she could afford to own. They asked what monthly payment she could absorb without immediately defaulting. That's a different question. And the answer to that question is always the highest number they can justify. The system isn't lending you money, it's purchasing a share of your future income. And once those monthly commitments are locked in, once you have a car payment and a credit card minimum and a student loan and a rent obligation, the psychological effect is immediate. Every month, the money arrives and immediately flows out. There is no moment where the cash pools. There is no moment of surplus that feels real enough to act on. You earn more but never feel richer. And that feeling is not an accident. It is the intended outcome. This is called debt-financed lifestyle normalization, and it operates at every income level. There are households in the United States earning $180,000 a year with fewer than 45 days cash on hand, earning almost $15,000 a month and one missed paycheck away from a crisis. The income goes up, the lifestyle scales to meet it, the commitments expand to absorb it, and the cash buffer stays dangerously thin. I mentioned earlier there was something I was going to show you, something the financial industry does not want visible. Here it is. When you deposit money into a standard checking or savings account, your bank immediately lends out the vast majority of it to other customers at interest rates far above what they pay you. A bank paying you 0.5% APY on a savings account is simultaneously lending that capital to other borrowers at 8%, 14%, 22%. The spread, the gap between what they pay you and what they charge others, is their profit, and it is enormous. This is called the net interest margin, and here's what it means for you practically. Every dollar you park in a low-yield account is a dollar that is actively working, just not for you. It's working for the institution. You are the raw material. Your deposits are their inventory, and the financial advice most people receive, save money in your bank account, is advice that benefits the bank far more than it benefits you. In 2024, the national average savings account interest rate at major retail banks was 0.46%. The inflation rate that same year was approximately 2.9%. Storing money in a standard savings account at a major bank didn't just fail to grow your wealth, it shrank it. In real terms, at that rate differential, every $10,000 sitting in a standard savings account at a major bank lost approximately $244 in purchasing power over 12 months. Not aggressively, quietly. That's the mechanism. Now, and this is the moment where the information shifts from diagnosis to strategy, I want you to subscribe and turn on notifications right now. Because what I'm about to walk you through is not general advice. It is a specific 4-tier liquidity architecture used by households with genuine financial resilience. And we cover this kind of tactical framework every week on this channel. Subscribe and you will not miss it. Now let's build the framework. The households that survive financial disruption without long-term damage don't just have savings, they have layered liquidity. 4 distinct tiers, each serving a different function, each held in a different structure, and each accessible at a different speed. Tier 1 is your operational float. This is the money in your checking account, the cash that covers your bills and daily expenses. The target here is not zero, not barely enough. The target is 1 full month of expenses sitting permanently in your checking account as a non-negotiable baseline. Not savings, not investment. Operational float. It should feel like dead money. That's the point. If your monthly expenses are $4,800, you should have $4,800 in checking that never leaves. This alone moves your day's cash on hand from the danger zone to the beginning of stability. Tier 2 is your liquid emergency reserve. This is 3 to 5 months of expenses held in a high-yield savings account, not a standard bank account. As of this recording, high-yield savings accounts are paying between 4.5% and 5.2% APY. That's 10 times the rate of a standard savings account, and enough to, at minimum, partially offset inflation. On $20,000 held at 5% APY, you're generating $1,000 a year in interest on money that is fully liquid and accessible within 24 to 48 hours. Your emergency reserve should not cost you purchasing power. It should generate passive income while it waits. This is the account that handles everything Diane's 38-day buffer could not: the job loss, the medical bill, the car repair. Tier 2 does not solve crises. It prevents crises from becoming catastrophes. Tier 3 is your opportunity capital. This is where the strategy separates people who are financially stable from people who are financially building. Opportunity capital is money parked in instruments that are liquid enough to access within a week, but generating returns above a pure savings rate. Treasury bills, short-duration bond ETFs, dividend-paying index positions. This tier doesn't need to be large. $5,000 to $15,000 is meaningful. The purpose is to give you the ability to act when an opportunity appears without liquidating emergency savings or selling long-term investments at a loss. Most people miss opportunities not because they lack ambition. They miss them because they have no accessible capital when the window opens. A business opportunity, a real estate deal, a rare asset purchase at a deep discount. All of these require a check you can write quickly without dismantling your financial foundation. Tier 3 is that check. Tier 4 is long-term wealth infrastructure, your retirement accounts, your brokerage positions, your investment real estate. This is the tier most people over-prioritize relative to tiers 1 through 3. They max a 401k while sitting on 12 days of cash on hand. They are building wealth at the top of the structure while the foundation is hollow. The sequence matters. You build floors before you build ceilings. Now, I want to address something directly because there is an objection that comes up every time I lay out this framework, and the objection sounds like this: I don't have extra money to build all 4 tiers. I'm already stretched. Here's the uncomfortable answer. If you are stretched thin on $75,000, $90,000, or $110,000 a year, the issue is almost certainly not income. The issue is commitment architecture, the fixed monthly obligations you have accumulated that are extracting the surplus before you ever see it. Let's go back to Diane's numbers and find the hidden capital. Her 2 credit cards carry minimum payments of $210, but minimums are a trap. If Diane's 2 cards total $8,500 in balances at an average of 21.4% APR, she is paying approximately $1,820 per year in interest alone, $152 a month going directly to the bank in pure cost, with zero impact on her balance. She is renting money. If she redirects $400 a month toward aggressive payoff, a debt avalanche targeting the highest APR card, first, she eliminates both cards in approximately 22 months. On the other side of that 22 months, she has $400 a month she didn't have before. Plus, she stops paying $152 a month in interest. Her cash position improves by $552 a month from one decision. Her subscriptions total $87 a month. That's $1,044 per year. I'm not going to tell you to cancel Netflix, but I am going to tell you that when you audit subscriptions, you almost always find between 2 and 4 services you have not actively used in 60 or more days. A conservative 40% reduction brings that number to $52 a month and frees $35. Small alone, meaningful as part of a cumulative strategy. Her dining and social spending is $480 a month. The data on restaurant spending is consistent. A 25% reduction, eating 1 fewer meal out per week, switching 1 dinner out for a home-cooked equivalent, generates $120 in monthly freed capital with minimal lifestyle impact. Most people overestimate the sacrifice. The actual shift in quality of life is negligible. The shift in financial trajectory is not. We've just found $707 a month without a raise, without a second job, without a dramatic lifestyle dismantling. Over 12 months, that's $8,484. Over 24 months, after the credit cards are cleared, the monthly surplus becomes $1,107. And that is the number that changes Diane's financial life. Not a windfall, not an inheritance, a systematic reallocation of money she was already earning, redirected away from extractive financial products and toward her own capital base. This is the core reframe I want you to carry out of this video. The financial system is not designed to help you become wealthy. It is designed to keep you productive, solvent enough to keep consuming, and dependent enough on monthly income to never be fully from it. Every reward points card, every buy now, pay later option, every zero-down financing deal, every promotional 0% APR period that converts to 26.99% if you haven't paid the balance in full, these are not consumer benefits. They are elegantly packaged extraction mechanisms. The wealthy understand this. They don't use credit cards for the points. They use credit strategically as a float tool and pay every dollar on the statement date every cycle without exception. They don't finance consumption. They finance assets. The distinction sounds simple. The behavioral difference is everything. Now I want to give you the second layer to this, because days cash on hand tells you how close you are to a crisis, but there's a second number that tells you how fast a crisis becomes permanent. It's called your recovery runway, and most people have never calculated it. Recovery runway is the estimated time it takes you to rebuild your financial baseline after a disruptive event, assuming the event is resolved and income resumes. For most households, a 3-month disruption takes 18 to 36 months to fully recover from, not because the math is impossible, but because of a compounding of secondary costs. Here is how it actually unfolds. Month 1 of a job loss, Diane draws on her $6,100 buffer. Covers bills. Uncomfortable but manageable. Month 2, buffer depleted. She begins pulling credit card balances up. Her $8,500 combined balance starts climbing. Month 3, she calls the student loan servicer for a deferral. Interest still accrues. The credit cards are now at $13,200. Month 4, she finds a new position at $82,000, a 13% income reduction from where she started, which is common in lateral job transitions. Months 5 and 6, she resumes payments, but can no longer afford the $400 debt avalanche strategy. She drops back to minimums. The credit card balance, now at $14,000, will take 6.2 years to clear on minimums. Her student loan deferral added $1,400 in accrued interest. Her net worth declined, and her days cash on hand is back to zero or worse. 1 3-month disruption, 6 years of residual financial damage. That is what thin buffers actually cost, not the disruption itself, the compounding aftermath. Now flip it. Same event, same 3 months, but Diane has built Tier 1 and Tier 2 before this happens. She has 1 month of operational float in checking and 4 months in a high-yield account. Total, $24,000. She does not touch a credit card. She does not defer loans. She draws steadily from Tier 2 and covers every obligation and arrives at month 4 with balances intact and a new job. Her financial architecture suffered zero structural damage. The disruption was absorbed without consequence. Same event, completely different outcome. The only variable was preparation. I want to close with something that doesn't get said enough in financial content because it requires nuance. There is a significant psychological component to financial vulnerability that is almost never discussed tactically. When your buffer is thin, your risk tolerance compresses. You cannot think clearly about opportunity when you are operating in financial fear. The research on scarcity, studies out of Princeton and Harvard over the last decade, shows that financial stress measurably reduces cognitive bandwidth. People in financial stress make objectively worse decisions across all domains: health, relationships, career, investments. Not because they are less intelligent, because the brain allocates processing power to perceived threats, and a thin cash buffer is a permanent low-grade threat signal. The four-tier liquidity framework is not just a financial tool, it is a cognitive literation strategy. When you know you have 120 days of operational security sitting in accessible accounts, you negotiate differently with employers. You take risks on income opportunities you would have rejected out of fear. You leave situations that underpay you. You make decisions from a position of stability rather than from the compressed decision-making of someone who cannot afford to lose. This is one of the mechanisms through which wealth compounds psychologically before it compounds financially. The wealthy aren't necessarily smarter, they are operating from a different risk environment, and that environment can be constructed deliberately, methodically, even from a position of current scarcity, if you understand the architecture. So here's the assignment I want you to walk away with. Tonight, not this weekend, tonight, calculate your day's cash on hand. Divide your total liquid accessible savings by your monthly total obligations. Whatever that number is, write it down without judgment. That number is your current position on the financial resilience spectrum. If it's above 90, you are in reasonable shape. 60 to 90, you are stable but fragile. 30 to 60, you are in the warning zone. Under 30, you are in active financial vulnerability regardless of your income. Then calculate the one expense reduction and the one debt payoff acceleration that frees the most capital in the shortest time. Not 10 changes, one reduction, one payoff target. Execute those two changes this month. Then open a high-yield savings account if you don't have one. Move your emergency reserve there. The interest rate differential between a standard savings account and a high-yield account on $10,000 is approximately $450 per year at current rates. That is $450 you are currently donating to a bank that is already using your money to generate returns for itself. These are not dramatic moves. There is no hustle culture revelation here. There is no life-changing discipline required in week one. There is only the decision to stop allowing your income to pass through your life without leaving anything behind. Diane earns $94,000 a year, 38 days away from a crisis. Not because she failed, because she was never shown the architecture. The system doesn't teach this. Schools don't teach this. Banks certainly don't teach this. And that ignorance is profitable for everyone except Diane. You now have a different set of numbers. Use them.